Thank you for joining us, Nan Holinky. Nan Holinky is a very well-known psychotherapist and astrologer. And we're going to talk today about something that everybody's interested in, which is the mating dance. How do you meet the right person for you? Now, Nan, why are people so unhappy right now without a mate in 2025? I mean, what was mating like before birth control in 1965? How have things changed?
Well, first of all, there was no way that you could put up something like this in front of your face. You talk to people. That's the first thing.
Oh my gosh,
and
we don't know how to do that.
people were in communities of school, of church, of neighborhood. So everybody knew everybody. And it was a social world. It was not a quiet world. And people really got along well.
Right.
So that was one thing. The other thing was that up until 1965, we did not have birth control. It was illegal. Therefore, girls had to be really careful and not get in trouble.
Right.
And they also didn't want to take the chance of getting pregnant. And they also, I didn't know when I was young, that there was a hormone of attachment if I had sex.
Right.
That's almost worse, really, than,
right.
than getting pregnant. So after 1965, women got really aware of themselves and what they could do and be. And in the 70s, we got to have our own driver's licenses and credit cards and everything like that. And women started working, and they weren't just working in the house. They were working everywhere. And as that changed, probably into the 80s, women started having the belief that they were so busy that they could not have time for things where they could meet people. I think it was the last of the 80s when we had those crazy speed datings.
Right.
They were funny. That was one of the things that made me think about how I should help people learn to mate. And really, I wanted to help everybody to learn to mate because I didn't know. Nobody taught me. I wasn't planning to get married. I was going to all these great schools and thought I was going to have a fabulous, time in the international part of life, but it didn't work. So when I realized that I had made such a terrible mistake when I got married, I knew that on my wedding day, but unfortunately, I got pregnant on my wedding day.
Oh.
And I adopted the 2 little boys that my husband had, so I had 3 children in 9 months. There you go. No plan, okay? So what I did is I said to myself, as I became more aware of people's topics, of what they were, I said 2 things. There was a book called, it was done by some guys from the Jung Center where I was working. And when they brought the book, it was called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Archetypes of the Mature Masculine.
Okay.
And I read that book and I said to those guys, oh my God, this is a genius book. I want every woman to see this book because there's a shadow and there's an immature and there's a mature. And we were all shopping in the wrong store.
Right.
Okay, so that was the first thing. And then after I started working on the birds, I said, I watched all those birds, and what did I learn? I learned that the males audition, the females choose, and that's how it was before birth control.
Right.
And so if I could convince people to do it that way, they were going to succeed because I also learned to program people when I was in Washington because I had a roommate that was working for the CIA.
Wow.
I read her books and she said, you're a natural at this. I went, I'm not doing this. But I did it with astrology and I did it with some of the techniques that I'm about to tell you about. So I said, here's how we can do this. And I probably had, I don't know how many hundreds of people do this and it worked. Anytime you go into a group situation, you walk over to anybody that looks interesting to you and you say, hi, my name is Nan and I like to meet new people and I wonder if I could ask you a question so I could get to know you. And Everybody that I've ever
Can you
known.
imagine doing that now?
Oh,
you
no,
know,
people
I
do
mean,
it all the
it's just,
time.
they
It,
do.
it was on The View 4 years ago. Somebody
Okay.
had found it, and they wonder where they got these questions. They're really
Okay.
good. So you say that, and you know you don't walk on the street to find it, but like if you were going to a party, or if you're
Right.
going to church, or if you're in a some.
But what are the best questions to ask?
Well, the first one is the one I'm about to say.
Okay.
The first one is, what's the worst thing that ever happened to you, and how did you get over it?
That's a great question.
That's the first one. And if you fail, you say, "Oh, I've never," and then they're either lying or they're not going to ever be taking any gun. You know,
If they never had a
change.
problem.
Yeah. So, but let's say the person says, "Oh, this happened, and this is what I did," and you hear yourself thinking, "Oh, that's what I would have done, or that's what I did."
Right.
Then I say to somebody, "Can I ask you another question?" And they go, "Yes." I say, "What do you enjoy doing when you're not working?" And
Yeah.
if they have any interest that you would be interested in, you tell them that. Say, "That's really interesting. I'd love to experience that with you. If you are free or have to." And I've just said it to all kind of people that say, "I've got a girlfriend, but thank you for the compliment." So you just practice saying that. That's why, like talking to people in the grocery store, you just practice so that
Right.
you're real smooth. Okay, so let's assume that two of these things are okay. Then you can say, "Can I have one more opportunity?" And then by then they're laughing and they're saying, "Oh yeah, what is she going to ask next?" And so the question is, especially for women, not so much for men, but for women need to say, "Tell me what you enjoy doing when you're alone." And if they say, "Oh, I can't stand to be alone," do
Run, right?
Do not run. Red flag.
Why is that?
Because they're a dependent personality, and they're going to cheat, and they're going to do all kinds of things you're not going to want. They're going to try to control you. Blah 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 blah. That I know.
That's very
And how
interesting.
do I know that? Because I had those two boys, and so I read every book on boys when I was trying to raise them because it was scary.
How do you do that? Yes.
And one of the books is about how to raise a boy, and it said males particularly have to be raised in such a way that they have the ability to take care of themselves, so that they're not working on somebody else taking care of you. And that's also the sneaky way to ask the first question. Tell me the worst thing that happened to you and how you got over it. If they tell you something and they never got over it, well, they're dependent. Dependence breeds aggression.
It's not good
That's
for a
what I
relationship.
learned.
Yeah.
So I had to, when I was being the crazy mom that I was getting my boys to do everything. I put them on little stools. So they said, "We're too short." I went, "No, you're not." And so that they were extremely able-bodied, so that they didn't hardly much got mad at me because they were on their own.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's
all right,
extremely
so let's
important.
assume those three things happen, and you meet this person, and after a couple months, you're having some time with them, and you're enjoying it. The next thing you need to know is, do they have any friends?
Right.
Because if they don't, that's as bad as
That's
the other
another
stuff.
sign.
So what you say, yeah, red flag flying. So what you say is, "I like to have a couple of my friends and maybe a couple of your friends, and we go somewhere to one of our houses and we have a meal.
Right.
If you like their friends you like you, and they have friends,
You're in good shape.
you're in good shape for basically 6 months."
Right.
So one of the things that we know is that if people get too close too fast, we call that the 90-day wonder. Most of the relationships that people get in is because girls are somehow they think, "Oh, I can only date one person." I went, "No, you can't. Don't do that."
Right.
Because do you go out and buy one pair of shoes? No, you try on everything.
Yeah.
Just like the birds did. Because when I was watching those female birds, the men were coming after them, and they had to learn how to dance and sing and
The men.
the male birds. I mean, they had to work like dogs.
They have to audition.
Because males have to audition, and they have to show that they're interested. And if the woman doesn't like what they're doing, she flies off.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what we need
Bye.
to do. We need to do that too.
Now, you've also mentioned how important it is to learn about the family of origin of the person you're trying
Well,
to.
that's it after
mate with.
6 months.
After 6 months. Okay.
Yes, because you don't want to look like you're a crazy person.
Right.
But after 6 months, if you're having a good time, then you say, "Have you ever heard of the family of origin and what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's world, most everybody has. And say, have you ever done any work on that? And I would say at least a quarter of people, male at least, and women too, yes, because there's books on it that are great.
Yeah.
And the reason you need to know is because of epigenetics. And epigenetics is something I learned in graduate school that now everybody's talking about. Because the people that came before you for the last 5 generations, all of their DNA is floating around in your life. And so, especially in today's world, when people don't stay married, fathers go away, that's a really big problem for the female. And so what you have to understand is that you probably didn't have the right kind of situation to know how to choose. So we got to give you some questions and some timelines so that you're going to do it. Now, there is something that nobody likes what I'm about to say. If you Google about how long should a relationship be before you decide, it's 3 years.
3 years?
Yes.
Interesting. Well,
and I told my oldest son that, and he said, "You're crazy." He's now on his third wife. But he also waited 3 years to marry her. My second
so
son.
he finally learned.
Yeah, he did. And my second son did that, and he's been married 30 years. And my son and my daughter did that. So it's if you really want to know, because most relationships that have not gotten together, it dies between the first and the second year.
Interesting. Yeah.
So if you go to the third year, you're okay.
Now, let's talk about conflict resolution, because obviously a
That's
lot of
the
divorce
most
is going
important
on, and people don't know how to deal with conflict.
That's
So
right.
what do you teach them? I mean, how do
Well,
you become proficient in conflict resolution?
I took a class from somebody that was really good, and then I bought a book that was even better. So the point is, I did it with my children, I did it with all of my clients, and I do it with everybody. I never have a conflict with somebody because I know what to do. And here's what I recommend. There was a guy in California that had a fight institute. And he said that anytime you're aggravated by somebody that you care about, you immediately say to them, I need to have an appointment with you in the next 24 hours of 20 minutes. I'll talk 5 minutes, you talk 5 minutes, I'll re-talk 5 minutes, and you talk. And if we can resolve it, that's great, because we can't fight very much in 20 minutes. And I always used a kitchen timer, and that worked out really well. And then if we need to do it again, we just make another appointment, so that we never gunny sack our grievances and drop the bomb over Tokyo's, which is what he used to call it. And I thought,
That makes sense.
wow, it made so much sense to me that I'm proficient at it now.
Yeah.
And in doing couples therapy, I always teach them how to do this.
Right.
And one of the things that I know is that when a woman is angry, she sounds to a man like she's just mean as can be. And so I like to have the woman write it down and give it to the man so that he didn't have to hear it. Because there's something about women's voices I don't
That upsets
understand
the man. Interesting.
that they can't deal with.
I've always felt that sometimes it's better to write things when you're having a conflict
I
and
think
then
it
talk
is.
about it.
Yes,
as
I
opposed
agree.
to
So we're on the same page.
yeah, yeah. Now, you've also said that relationships should be like a structure of Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Well,
which
there
are
was a book that
two
came out
separate
years ago.
cities and a bridge between them.
She said to us, she said that's the best structure is the same as the city, Minneapolis and St. Paul, 2 independent cities with traffic in between.
Going around, yeah.
And so it's really about you keep your individuality and you keep your connection with the person. And so that's really the modern relationship.
Yeah, you have your own friends, you have your
Yes,
own,
and you have your own money.
and you do things together,
Yes, yes.
but you also need to have your own
You need
life.
to breathe. You need
Right,
to breathe
right.
and not be wrapped up in so much energy with the partner that you hate them.
Right. Now, is there a way women can understand males better?
Yeah, but they don't want to.
Really, why?
I don't know. I can't tell you that. I recommend a book. I don't want to talk about it, Hidden Depression in Men. It's a
Okay.
good book.
Okay.
When it came out 20 years ago, I liked the title, and I'm a reader. So I read the book, and I said, and I'm not a guy, so I don't know if this is true, but several years ago, I did it, Save the Males on PBS,
Right.
and they hated me because I was what I was telling. So I don't usually tell them anymore. But so what I did is I have my sister's husband is a very smart guy and has been in all kind of therapy. And so I said, would you read this book for me and see what you think? And he read the book and he said, it is a perfect book for every woman to read. I'm going to share it with my brother and we're going to talk about it together. But the short thing to tell men is, tell them everything you want. They don't know how to guess.
Okay.
Number two, when they do anything good, please say, I appreciate that more than you'll know. I don't know what I'd do without you. Because men have a brain that does not have two hemispheres locked in together like women do. So they need to hear from us everything we like about them, everything we need. And if they're a mature guy, they're real helpful because they say, oh, thank God you tell me what I need to
Right,
do.
and they'll do it. Now, is there a way men can understand women better? I mean, we are complicated.
Well, I think men just need to ask questions. What can I do for you? How can I help you? And they never need to do when a woman's upset. What can I do to help you? What they need to say is, I'm here. Is there anything I can do? Because men try to...
They want to do
fix
things
what-
for you.
They want to do things for you.
Right.
So you have to not let them do that without asking your permission.
Right.
The other thing is, we're such a different species. And I have a little book that says that men are good with maps, women are good with people. And that's the problem when a man gets a bad female. They can't tell.
Right, right.
And so just as when we were younger and we got bad guys, now guys get bad women.
Works both ways.
Yeah, works both ways. So the men need to have some of these questions too. And really, you need, if you're a male, I would want to meet the mother of the
Right.
wife or the
Right.
woman, because you're going to have somebody like that, or somebody opposite than that. So if you ask if you're a male and you ask the woman, how do you like your mother? And she says, I'm different from her. That's probably good.
Okay.
So in the same thing, if you ask men about their mother, if they say, oh, she's an angel, run, because guess what? There ain't no angels in your mother. Not. Or the other thing, they'll say, I hate her. And if they're hating her, they're going to hate you too.
Right. They're going to hate women in general.
Yeah, so the point is, there's a few questions you can ask that will help. And the other thing is ask your friends. Now, one of the things that I used to do when I was dating, when I went out on a date, I never answered any questions. I just asked them. And when I got out of the date, I wrote down everything they told me. And then I said to one of my friends, what do you think about this profile? And they would all say, it's okay, or run. And so if the guy doesn't ask you anything about yourself the second date, he's so narcissistic, you better run.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of that
There's
now.
a lot of that going on.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Nan. I think we're giving people some really good tips to find the right mate.
Okay, and if they want more information, they can go to my website, nan@nanhollowinky.com, and I can give them more information.
Give them some coaching.
Coaching.